Let's explore 5 shocking cases where parents stopped waiting for the system and delivered their own brutal justice. What would you do if you were in the shoes of these parents? Just after midnight on the 8th of October 2024, in Lonoke County, Arkansas, Aaron Spencer and his wife Heather were awoken by the frantic barking of their daughter's chihuahua. Confused, they rushed to check on their 14-year-old daughter, and at first glance, she appeared to be in bed asleep. But as they looked closer, they soon realised the figure under the covers wasn't her at all. A teddy bear wrapped in her hoodie had been used as a decoy. Their daughter was gone. The family had already been on edge, as just 3 months earlier, the then 13-year-old revealed to her parents that she'd been SA'd multiple times at a family friend's home by 67-year-old Michael Fosler. He had started grooming the teen via text months before, shortly after they first met in spring. Michael was arrested with a sickening total of 43 felonies, all related to children, but he was released on a $50,000 bail. A restraining order was issued, barring him from contacting the Spencers' daughter, something that the family had hoped would keep her safe. But tragically, it wasn't enough. After Aaron and Heather noticed their 14-year-old daughter was missing, Heather frantically called around family members, hoping that she might have been with one of them, but every call came back empty. Desperate, she called the police. But deep down, both parents already had a sinking suspicion about who had taken her, and they feared the worst if they didn't act fast. Aaron jumped into his Ford truck and scoured the streets, searching desperately. About 10 miles away, he spotted a white Ford F-150, Michael Fosler's truck. Behind the wheel was the man that they feared, and in the passenger seat was their missing daughter. Without hesitation, Aaron made a U-turn, chasing the vehicle while flashing his lights and sounding his horn, doing everything he possibly could to stop his daughter's predator. Finally, in a desperate move, he rammed the back of Michael's truck, sending it careening off the road. Aaron's daughter attempted to leap out of the truck, but Michael grabbed her. Aaron then demanded Michael to get out of his vehicle, but Michael lunged towards him with an item in his hand, saying "F you." In that split second, Aaron opened fire, emptying his gun before continuing to strike Fosler with the weapon. Once his daughter was safe, Aaron pulled her from the truck and called 911. He told the dispatcher that the man who had kidnapped his daughter was dead on the side of the road and that he had no choice. 37-year-old Aaron Spencer was arrested and charged with second-degree murder with a firearm enhancement. His trial is scheduled for January 2026, but many have called Aaron a hero for defending his daughter. It's chilling to think just how differently this case could have ended. What sentence do you think Aaron should receive? On the 7th of July 2016, police responded to reports of gunshots in a remote wooded area in Naples, Florida. When they arrived, they discovered the bodies of 2 men, 18-year-old Xavier Sierra and 29-year-old John Vargas. At first, authorities just assumed the 2 men had shot each other, but they soon realised that this wasn't the case at all. 43-year-old Connie Serbu was still on the scene sitting in her car. She was the one who had called police after she shot and killed 18-year-old Xavier Sierra. Initially, she played dumb, claiming she didn't know what had happened, but eventually, while visibly on edge, she blurted out, "It's all my fault." Connie's daughter, who was about 11 at the time of this event, finally found the courage to tell her babysitter that Xavier SA'd her 5 years prior, when she was only 6 years old, making him 12 or 13 years old at the time. Once Connie learned about this, she told her husband that she was going to do something, and that he would need to raise the kids alone. She repeatedly talked with friends about murdering Xavier, despite her daughter telling her not to hurt him. One friend even suggested going to the police and not taking matters into her own hands, but she didn't listen. That afternoon, she lured Xavier by promising him some money to help build a bunk bed. After picking him up at around 3 p.m, she and her brother John Vargas, who she'd persuaded to join her, set out dressed in dark clothing, hats, and with duct tape on their shoes, carrying 2 stun guns, 2 handguns, an ice pick, and a potato intended to muffle the gunshots. After collecting Xavier, John questioned him about the allegations, while Connie drove to the remote location. Once they stopped, Xavier, sensing that he was in danger, tried to escape, but Connie and John chased him down. A struggle then broke out between Xavier and John for one of the 2 guns, which then led to John being shot in the stomach. Court documents don't state who exactly shot John, but he was the first one to be shot. Following this, Connie shot Xavier multiple times, resulting in his death. Autopsy reports later confirmed that he had been shot a total of 6 times from both guns. The mum of 2 told police, "So I don't care. He raped my daughter. I don't care. He sodomized my daughter. She told me everything that happened." Connie was found guilty of second-degree murder of a teen and sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole. So this next case is quite a short one, but it is certainly no less shocking than the others. It took place in 2021 in the village of Vintai in Samara, Russia. 35-year-old Vyacheslav Matrosov discovered footage of his 6-year-old daughter being forced to perform inappropriate acts on Oleg Sferidov's phone, a man he once trusted as a friend and who had also been his daughter's babysitter. Enraged by the betrayal, Vyacheslav took the law into his own hands. He led Oleg to the woods, forced him to dig his own grave, and convinced him to end his own life. Initially, Vyacheslav was accused of murder, but investigations determined that Oleg's death was self-inflicted. There were also suspicions that 2 other girls had suffered at the hands of Oleg, though these were never confirmed. Vyacheslav was sentenced to 18 months in a strict regime penal colony for inciting suicide, but he was released after 12 months. The case sparked a surge of public support. Many believed Vyacheslav had acted out of a father's instinct to protect his child, and others felt he had removed another child predator from the world. Unfortunately, I have no names for this particular case. They've not been revealed for legal reasons. On the 1st of November 2014, in Delhi, India, a 36-year-old dad of 6 told his wife he wanted to spend some time with his tenant in the first-floor bedroom, so he asked her to sleep downstairs with the kids that night. She didn't think anything of it at the time, but the tenant wouldn't leave that room alive. In the 6 by 8 foot room, the unidentified dad bound and gagged his tenant before heating a steel spatula on the stove and put it on the tenant's genitals. The dad handed himself in to police at 3:45 a.m. He told them he'd made a mistake and killed someone. He said, "I burned his genitals once," he screamed. "I did it again." He shuddered. "When I did it the 3rd time, he did not move." The dad claims when he confronted his tenant with the allegations, the tenant showed no remorse, which only enraged him more. The 13-year-old daughter of the unnamed man had started to feel dizzy and started vomiting one day, so her parents took her to a doctor who revealed she was pregnant. They were all understandably shocked, so the 13-year-old confessed everything. A month or so earlier, the tenant realised the 13-year-old girl was home alone, so he pulled her into his room, tied her up, and raped her. He then threatened to kill her dad if she told anyone at all about what had happened. The girl has said that when her dad found out, first he was angry with me. When I told him it was the tenant, he said he would teach him a lesson. The tenant had been very well known to the family, living in one of their rooms for 5 years. It's unclear what sentence the dad received, as without a name it's been really difficult to search for the outcome, but many locals showed support for him. The officer in charge even claimed having sympathy for the family, but that he had to do his job of following the law. Our final case brings us to Cheshire in the UK, when in July 2020, Corinna Smith was made aware of a horrifying matter. Corinna was married to Michael Baines for 38 years, for whom she was the carer for. Both had children from previous relationships, and then they also had another child together. Years prior to the event had been really difficult, as their 25-year-old son, Craig, had took his own life in 2007. It's reported that he had been troubled before his passing, and had spent time in prison for an assault on a man that Craig claimed to be a PDF file that had essayed him. Days before his death, he appeared to be in distress and told his mum the chilling words, "Mum, he's a PDF file." In this moment, Corinna assumed Craig was referring to the man that he'd assaulted, but years later, she would discover Craig's true horrifying reference. Fast forward to the 13th of July 2020, when she would finally learn the truth while spending time with her daughter. Corinna wanted to spend longer with her daughter, so she phoned Michael to let him know. News that he was not too pleased with. During this time, her daughter suggested she asks Michael what he'd done, or she would tell her herself. This wasn't the first time, though, that she'd hinted at having something to tell, but on this occasion, Corinna told her daughter to just tell her. She broke down and told her mum that Michael had essayed her and Craig as kids. Obviously, this came as a huge shock to Corinna and was highly distressing. She withheld details, saying that it was so bad she couldn't even tell her everything, and explained that this was the true reason that Craig had took his own life. It was in that moment Corinna finally made the connection to what Craig had said to her the day before he took his life. This revelation completely destroyed Corinna. She had always carried guilt over her son's death, but now, faced with the possibility that her husband was the cause, that guilt twisted into unbearable rage. Fuming, Corinna's first instinct was to call the police, but her daughter didn't want her to in fear of dividing the family. Instead, they decided to book a polygraph test to provide the proof to present to the others before telling the distressing news. The plan was for Brian to also take a test, but tragically, they didn't make it that far. Corinna returned home that night at 9:30 p.m, and feeling the need to vent, she told her other son, whom didn't believe the claims, and she also spoke to her cousin. Her daughter was so angry with her that she'd gone and told others despite making other plans. But less than an hour after her last call, and struggling to process her daughter's claims, Corinna was overcome with rage towards her husband and just snapped. She grabbed a bucket from the garden, filled it with 3 kilograms of sugar and the equivalent of 2 full kettles of boiling water. Then as he slept, she poured the contents all over his torso and arms. Then she left the property. She went to a neighbour's house 9 doors away, somebody that wasn't particularly close with her, and told him, "I've hurt him really bad. I think I've killed him." When police arrived on the scene, they found Michael whimpering in excruciating pain, with the skin on his right hand and arm peeling away. He was rushed to hospital and remained in the burns unit for 2 weeks, with burns to 36% of his body. These burns were said to have been life-threatening, given his age and his state of general health. So after 5 weeks, Michael's condition deteriorated, and on the 19th of August 2020, he succumbed to his injuries. In court, the judge acknowledged the devastating context, but said that Corinna's actions had robbed her daughter of the chance for her allegations to be properly investigated, and had deprived the rest of the family of the truth. With no prior convictions, Corinna Smith was found guilty of murder and sentenced to life in prison with a minimum of 12 years. So what would you do if you were in their shoes? Do you think that they're heroes or criminals driven by rage? If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to give it a like, and for another case of a parent protecting his daughters, watch this case about Major John Kayla's execution-style quadruple murder.